Scar was a weak lion, while for the most part, the lionesses were unified, powerful, and tactical hunters, which means they could have fought against Scar's rule, right? Couldn't they have fought off the hyenas and defeated Scar without Simba's return? Why would the lionesses restrain themselves? Today, I want to be going through all of these Lion King questions. Hello, I'm Isaac from Lionesses Overthrow videos where we discuss fun topics for fun people. On my channel, I focus on spreading magic by examining Disney films, so if you are new here, consider subscribing. Over the weekend, I was able to travel to Chicago with friends, hang out with the Super Carlin brothers, meet some fun people in person, and I got to see the new live-action Lion King film. And while some moments of the film I thought fell like Scar off of Pride Rock, while others rose like Zazu in the savannah, there were quite a few changes to the classic story that enticed me and brought new context to classic elements within The Lion King. One of the clarifications in the 2019 Lion King that has been provided was the reason behind the lionesses remaining by Scar's side. Also, let me know what you thought of The Lion King 2019 in the comments. After the villainous Scar ventured to the elephant graveyard and commissions Shenzi and her clan to assist in the death of the king Mufasa and succeeds, Scar took over the Pride Lands. A new order was established, much to the horror of the lionesses Zazu and Rafiki. While those who loved the reign of Mufasa sorrowfully and regretfully mourned their late king, they accepted their new one. Much like the original animated version, Scar tells the Pride that both Mufasa and Mufasa's heir Simba were killed in a stampede, including that he couldn't get there in time to save them after he searched for help. While they understood Scar had a lot to gain from lying, after living within the Pride Lands with them for years, they accepted his explanation.
Scar told us about the stampede.
He did?
Without Mufasa and Simba present to take the throne, Scar was next in line. He had the right to step forward as the new king, so his decision to allow the pack of hyenas into the Pride Lands was a decision available to him. Even overhunting the land until it was devoured to a point where it was barren, dry, and a horrible place was a choice that was allotted to Scar, even though it disturbed the balance of their home. While Scar was making choices that the lionesses did not agree with and they did not support, they had a respect for their traditions. Death was a part of the circle of life. Most of the Pride did not love Scar, but accepted that Mufasa's time had inevitably come, and a new king had to rise from the ashes. The lionesses, of course, did not favor Scar as their ruler, and often did feel like he was bringing their home to ruins. But nevertheless, the Pride Lands were still their territory. Pride Rock was likely where all of these lions had been born and raised, which meant no matter how mutilated the land became, it was still their home and they refused to abandon it. In the Lion King musical, this telling of the story also expands on the importance of the Pride Lands. The lionesses reiterate during one of my favorite songs, Shadowland, Fatshi Lesu Leila Hala Leila, which means the land of our ancestors is holy. The lionesses felt like they had a duty to remain on their land. There was truly only one lioness who was willing to leave. One lioness had the resolve to venture out without concern of the dangers that lay before her. And in the new live-action version of the story, we are able to witness this lion's restless behavior prior to leaving the Pride Lands. The betrothed partner of Simba, named Nala, despised how the place she had been raised within had fallen to so much destruction by the ambitions of a corrupt ruler, and hated that she remained dormant along with her pride while all of this occurred. The lionesses weren't passively allowing their kingdom to fall to ruin, and they did diverge from Scar's rule, but Nala wanted more from them. Simba's mother Sarabi continued to act as the queen of the Pride Lands, as shown from her receiving morning reports from Zazu and ensuring the Pride remained organized and united for the most part. If we know anything from The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride, it's that a few lionesses likely did not fully agree with Sarabi's lionesses on the effectiveness of Scar, but they were insignificant during that king's reign. Regardless, Nala was unsatisfied by her situation and what she was doing to resist Scar's tyranny. Nala desired to take measures to free them from Scar, hoping to have the lionesses leave the Pride Lands or face Scar themselves. But Sarabi does not let that occur in the live-action retelling. The queen clearly reminds Nala that as far as they were aware, Scar was their legitimate king, and that they must stay in the Pride Lands to defend their holy kingdom. In the musical, though, the lionesses support and bless Nala on her journey to find help. They state their land is tear-stained, damaged, and a dry land. They were all not willing to leave their home in its current state, but they would wait for Nala to return with what she found from beyond their borders. In all retellings of the story, once the Lionesses realize Nala is gone, they wait for her return, while they continue to respect their home and the rules that govern it. But that becomes even more difficult as Scar's control over them became even tighter. While the Lionesses remained patient for the state of the Pride Lands and let their given king rule, Scar preemptively also used his army of hyenas to ensure a single lioness would feel unable to rebel against his rule. Especially in the live-action retelling, we can clearly see how the hyenas patrol the lionesses to ensure they remain his prisoner, which forces them to resist insubordination. We see from a deleted scene from the original animated feature as well that in the moments the lionesses did resist his rule, he would employ his own measures to keep them under his control. He did not care if he was seen as a good ruler, but just desired to simply remain the king.
I don't require your respect, only your obedience.
In the musical, during the song The Madness of King Scar, Scar shows his desire to be adored and loved, but comes to the conclusion he will take what is his. Mufasa was no more, which meant he felt he could control his destiny. Scar was finally the king of his land, and he would do everything in his power to keep it under his rule.
I am the king. I can do whatever I want.
When the Pride Lands were facing devastating destruction amidst the overconsumption by the hyenas and the lionesses began to grow angered by Scar's mistreatment of them, he squelched rebellions that formed with the strength of the hyena army. While the lionesses together could face Scar and his hyenas, there were too many hyenas for a single or small group of lionesses to rebel. They would have to work together to be free of Scar's oppression. Otherwise, as we saw in the same animated deleted scene, the lionesses would be trapped by Scar.
So don't try and rattle my cage.
Be prepared.
Once Scar had taken power, he was unwilling to allow any to be given up. The lionesses had accepted Scar's rule and remained dedicated to their kingdom, but with the hyenas watching over them all, they were restricted by what they could say and do against Scar. He watched over them intently and leveraged his army to keep them inactive, which meant most of the lions who were not Scar's followers were paralyzed. Even while Scar pressed his power onto the lionesses though, two would rise against him. When Scar forced his subjects to have allegiance to the dying place, which would result in the Pride Land's death, and began to use his power as king to inappropriately court a queen, Nala finally took measures to search for help.
Everything's destroyed. There's no food, no water. Simba, if you don't do something soon, everyone will starve.
But Nala wasn't the only one who turned her back on Scar. When conditions became so horrible that the Pride Lands could no longer sustain any life within it, Sarabi determined that the time to respect Scar's rule was over when he began to question her on the status of her hunting party. Sarabi had to tell him the truth. The Pride Lands were dying and she couldn't stand for it. While she had been patient with his actions as king to preserve order in the Pride Lands, she couldn't hold back her thoughts any longer. Finally, Sarabi felt it was time to stand for what she felt was right, for the sake of her people.
We have only one choice. We must leave Pride Rock.
We're not going anywhere.
Then you have sentenced us to death.
Then so be
The
it.
Scar showed his raw malice, power-hungry nature, and aggression. Sarabi's own hatred of Scar came through, which led to him attacking her.
If you were half the king Mufasa was, you would
I'm
never...
10 times the king Mufasa was.
At first, the lionesses were paralyzed as they had believed Scar's deceit that both Mufasa and Simba had perished. And then when Scar lied again to claim that Simba had murdered Mufasa, they were stunned by this accusation. They had trouble deciding whether or not to trust the accused murderer or the lion who had destroyed their kingdom. But finally, when the truth was revealed that Scar had been the one to end Mufasa's life, the lionesses were through with their fear and their commitment to his reign. Now that it was clear that Scar was not the rightful king and he had only risen to that position through the death of the beloved Mufasa, the hyenas were no longer a concern for the lionesses. The majority of the lionesses were prepared to back Simba in the fight for their holy lands. So why didn't the lionesses overthrow Scar earlier? I think when Scar rose to power, the lionesses functioned under the belief that Mufasa and Simba's time had come, and it was Scar's time to rule. They respected Scar on the throne, even as he made decisions they disagreed with, as they trusted in the position and were willing to do what it took to remain in the Pride Lands to protect their home. But as they became more discontent, Scar ensured the Lionesses' obedience through scare tactics and the strength of his hyena army, until Simba arrived. The Lionesses finally felt free of any allegiance or fear they had of Scar, and were finally ready to overthrow him, when the rightful king of Pride Rock returned. But now it's time to hear your thoughts. Why do you think the Lionesses didn't overthrow Scar? Let me know what you think in the comments, along with any other ideas you have for future videos. To see more Lion King videos like this one, you can find a link to those videos in the description. And if you'd like to continue to see more magical discussions, then don't forget to click that subscribe button and the beautiful bell if you're new. Thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon who are amazing supporters of my videos. And as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.